How's it going, Joel?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Good. Not too bad. You're a busy man.
I am.
Yeah. And I haven't seen you in so long, too.
I know it's been.
I don't think I've seen you since last year.
Really?
I think so. What was the last thing we did? I think it was like food at.
I have food.
Was it your apartment? Might have been.
Might have been, or Montana's maybe.
I don't know. I think it was when I was like, oh, do I be a real estate agent like you?
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, we've met a few different times. We met at the office.
Mm-hmm.
We went out to eat.
Mm.
I think we did some other things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been a while.
It has been a while.
Time for me goes so quickly when you're as busy as I am, I guess. You don't realize how quickly time is moving sometimes.
Well, I definitely noticed and got that vibe from when I first met you that you're a busy guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about like what you do?
Okay.
Who is Joel?
Well, Joel is a realtor. That's my trade. That's what I do. I got into that in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
In February, I became a licensed realtor with the province of New Brunswick and with Exit Realty Specialists. Prior to that, I had a 14-year career in commercial real estate with Irving Oil. So the transition made a lot of sense. The pandemic was going on. Houses and real estate became very important, believe it or not, during that time frame. And people started moving back to the Maritimes. People started moving back to New Brunswick. You know, we were seeing people leave in record numbers over the last, prior to the pandemic, I think it was 15, 20 years, people were leaving. But I just read an article today, interesting enough, that the province is at 850,000 people. And it's the highest we've been. And we are adding thousands of people every month are coming here. And this is a good thing. I mean, people are now seeing the value of the maritime lifestyle, the cost of living. Lifestyle is just a little bit different. No, it's a lot different than like Toronto or something like that. And so this small town feel has become very appealing to people. And, those of us that grew up here, we know how great it is. But for whatever reason, there was this 20-year exodus out of here. And the pandemic shifted a lot of things. You can argue good or bad, but I'm seeing in my own personal life and in what I do, like a positive shift.
I definitely think it's a really positive shift, and I've thought that for a while. The only problem I have, and maybe you see this as well as a little bit, is the housing. There's not a lot of homes for the amount of people here. Particularly immigrants, right? Because we are having a huge influx in people coming here from different countries. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, where are we going to put them?
This is just it.
Yeah.
So, and this is what's driving the current market. So right now we're in what's called a seller's market. And that is because there are more people looking for houses, more buyers than there are listings or houses for sale.
Right. So
right now, when I'm dealing with a buyer, in particular, it's in what I call the mid-market. So if you're talking between $200,000 and $400,000 for a home, that I consider the mid-market, and that is the tightest part of the market. And by that, I mean, that's the most difficult price point to find something. And if you do find something you like, you're often in heavy competition. So just before here, I was showing a house. And the house was listed just under 200,000. And my buyers were like, so what do you think we need to offer on this house? And I said, okay, so just give me a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call the listing realtor and I'm going to ask them, how many showings have you had? What's the feedback been like? How many offers are you expecting? And this is what I got back. So offers are due tomorrow. So typically what happens is, let's say it lists midweek. It's on the market for 5 to 7 days, and we put a seller's direction out saying offers are going to be held until this time on this date.
Right.
So in this case, it was like noon tomorrow or something. And when I spoke to the realtor, I said goodbye to my clients. I hopped in my car, queued up my phone, called the other realtor, and I was like, so just wondering, my clients are kind of interested. What do you think the story is? And that other realtor said, okay, so we've had 20 plus showings. We have one offer already received. There's 7 realtors telling me they're going to write an offer. And there's 11 realtors saying they think they might write an offer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she said, and some realtors didn't provide any feedback yet. So I hop onto Matrix, which is basically the back end of Realtor.ca, and I'm like, okay, let's just do a quick evaluation of this home. What are homes selling for in this neighborhood? So I quickly pulled that up. I sent it off to my clients, and I was like, houses are selling like between $200,000 and $214,000. I said, however, there's one offer in hand, 7 coming, 11 possibly more than that. So even though the comparables are showing this, I feel like you're going to need to offer somewhere between $230,000 to $250,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I feel like that's a lot compared to what it was pre-pandemic or even during the pandemic. But I don't normally count that because that was weird. And it was almost a perfect time to buy a house. Kind of, because I get a lot of questions or a lot of comments about, especially at work, with people about, I don't know anything about it, the interest rates going higher for getting reevaluation. Do you know much about that?
Yeah.
So they're panicking.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know? Can you explain that to me? Because I don't get it.
I can. I first want to circle back to average price. So
Sure.
right now, the average price is $314,000 and change.
Okay.
As of March.
Wow.
So the stats just came out. That's the cumulative year to date average price.
Right.
Okay. So pre-pandemic, the pricing was somewhere about $175,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how much the average price of an average home in this area has gone up.
Right.
So now with interest rates, so that's another thing driving this market. So because during the pandemic, people could get an interest rate of 2%. So when you think of a mortgage of $300,000 and paying 2% interest over the period of that lease, and typically people locked into a 5-year fixed mortgage rate.
Mm-hmm.
So that means for 5 years they were paying 1.9% on $300,000.
Right.
And so this is very crude math. The rough math was like for every $100,000 mortgaged, it was about $450 to $500 a month in mortgage payments.
Right.
So now if you fast forward to interest rates that are now 5%, 6%, if you're locking in at that same rate with a $300,000 mortgage, your per 100,000 is closer to 6 now. Again, very crude numbers here, but people are now having to pay $200 or $300 or $400 more per month on their mortgage payment. And when you get into the very expensive homes, it really balloons.
Mm-hmm.
So people that bought $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 homes, think of the math on that. Mm-hmm. So, when they were mortgaged at 2% and now versus 5%, that is what is happening. So it affects your monthly payment.
Right.
And so therefore it's eating into people's budgets. Now, technically people were supposed to have pre-qualified. Like the bank was supposed to pre-qualify you at the time when interest rates were around 2%. They were pre-qualifying people at 5.75%. Mm-hmm. So that was the inflationary risk management that the banks were doing, so that even though you were only paying 2%, you could afford technically up to 5%. Well, they've bumped that up now because interest rates are actually higher than that.
Right.
So people are not only are they locking in at this 5%, 6%, but they're having to pre-qualify at a higher amount too. So the other thing that does is, let's say when interest rates were 2%, based on my financial situation, maybe I could afford $300,000, $350,000.
Right.
But with higher interest rates, it erodes my affordability. So now I can only afford $275,000. Let's say, again, rough numbers, but just for the sake of the argument here. So what it has done is it is it has meant that people can't afford as much as an expensive house. So that has put another amount of pressure on the mid-market.
And do you find a lot of people coming to you like, oh, hey, like, do you think, prices would drop? Do you like, what do you think of that? Because for me, I think how we actually originally met, apart from meeting at my work, was I was looking into buying a house or some type of property. I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And I never ended up doing it, evidently. But now, for me, and a lot of my other friends as well who don't already own a home, and even if they do, they paid way more than they should, I think, personally.
Mm-hmm.
But like someone for like me, like, is it going to go down? Like, how do you think? Do you think I need to budget better? Like, I don't know. Like, what's going on?
A lot. You're not the only one asking that.
Yeah.
So many people are asking me that question. And no, it's not. Not anytime soon, anyway. And the reason, there's a few reasons for that. It's real estate pricing is based on supply and demand.
Right.
So we're in a very low supply. I believe the supply right now is the lowest we've seen. I know at the beginning of the year and the end of last year, when I was researching this, I think it was the lowest amount of supply we had on record for available listings.
Mm-hmm.
So you couple that with all of the folks that are moving here, whether it be interprovincial migration, which is huge.
Yep. A lot of people from Ontario, yeah.
Yes. A lot of people from Ontario.
A lot. It was like I want to say maybe 6 out of 10 people I would speak to, Ontario.
Okay, in your work.
Yeah.
Interesting. So from my perspective, let's say I was showing 6 houses in one day and to 6 different clients. 1 to 3 of them might have been from Ontario.
Yeah.
Right? Depending. Now it has come down a bit. I don't have as many Ontario buyers right now. And that is partially because their market has shifted as well. So, and I actually have people that I'm talking to from BC and from Ontario, and they're like, Joel, our houses haven't sold. So, we're going to call you as soon as it sells. And I follow up with them a couple of weeks later. They're like, it still hasn't sold. So are we there?
All right. Sorry, a little cut off, but
that's okay. So I was talking about people who I'm in contact with that their houses aren't selling, and as soon as they do, they will come here. Now, I will caveat that by these are homes in the two, like I just spoke with 2 different people this week, and they were higher end homes.
Right.
So they're not in the mid-market. They're in the high-end home market, and so that part of, again, so why would the mid-market be banana sandwich and the high-end market be slowing down? It is interest rates, it's affordability, it's inflation. So, and we're, folks are getting sort of hit from all directions right now. Taxes are going up. Cost of groceries is going up, pretty much everything. So that's the inflationary pressure.
Right.
But along with that, the interest rates, so their balances on their credit cards, their mortgages, all these things are costing them more. So they're paying more out in interest every month. So that is eroding back what they have in available spending income.
Right.
So these are all the things. So then, what they might have been thinking about buying a $600,000 house, now they're like, maybe we should be looking in the $400,000 to $100,000 range. So it pushed more people into the already tight market of the mid-market. People that might have been on the edge of mid to high end are now in mid-market. So it's putting all the buyers are like accumulating into this little price point of $200,000 to $400,000. So all that to say, the things that are driving the market to be the way it is are not things that can be easily solved or changed. So in order for the market to basically shift, we would have to have a bunch of people list their homes. We would have to have thousands of more listings than we have right now. So when the market was not balanced the way it was when it was flipped to a buyer's market, there were approximately 3,000 listings. There are roughly 300 now. So that is
a big difference.
That's a big difference. And the amount of people looking is much higher than it was than when there were 3,000 listings.
Right.
So in order for this to shift, you would need to see interest rates drop. You would need to see immigration go way down, interprovincial migration go way down. People would need to stop coming here, basically.
Yeah.
Interest rates would need to decrease significantly, and there would need to be a ton of listings. So, when we look at real estate, how quickly it can respond to changes. In our training manuals that we read, it was like the real estate market takes 2 years roughly to adjust to a major shift. So let's say right now we were to start building houses, because we need to either build them or people need to sell them to have more inventory.
Right.
So I read a stat recently, like nationally, we're short like 2.4 million homes. So at the rate of current construction, that's what we're going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So the construction rate is not high enough to offset the amount of people coming. So we need to be building a lot more. And so you're thinking, a lot of people are like, well, why isn't there just a ton of houses being built? Well, here's the problem with that. It costs a lot of money. There's a labor shortage. So there are so many contractors that are like, we could build more houses, but I don't have people to swing a hammer. I can't find anyone that will plumb this place out or do the electrical or whatever. So just skilled labor to build a house is a problem. So you've got general contractors that typically are more hands-off, like actually putting boards up and doing the things that they should have a laborer doing. So, we've got a skilled labor thing happening. Also, new construction. So the material costs to build a new house are so high that when they build them, they're not in the window of affordability for the majority of people. So those new constructions aren't in the mid-market. They're in the high-end market. So it's like, okay, even building a bunch of homes right now, if we were to build a bunch of 3-bedroom bungalows, because I'm telling you right now, that's what we need. We need 3-bedroom bungalows. We need a bunch of them, and we need them in the hot neighborhoods like Rothesay, Quispamsis, Milledgeville, East Side, Champlain Heights, anywhere east, west, Greendale. Grand Bay Westfield needs to build a bunch of houses. We need more stuff in Milledgeville. That would solve it. But the rate at which these would have to be built, and they would also have to be built economically, which kind of puts a lot of the builders out of the race because they need to make money, building. Right. And it's hard for them to build in that price point.
So what do you think is causing, why are there no laborers? What's going on? I don't really know much about this at all.
Okay.
So do you know?
Well, I have some ideas. It's not really
people just getting lazy?
No, I don't think that's what it is. I think it goes back a few years. So if you look at a skilled laborer.
Right.
We used to have a vocational school, and there was a time when more people were encouraged to get into that type of career. But if you think about so I'm 40 something, and you're in a totally different generation, it wasn't being it was being encouraged to go and get degrees from a university, like academic degrees, business degrees, engineering, all these types of things were really promoted. And I just feel like they didn't promote people doing working with their hands, skilled types of labor jobs. And that has created a shortage. But I actually have a degree in HR.
Do you?
From UMB, yeah. And when I was, and that degree, I recently got it. I got it, and I finished my HR degree in 2019, actually. I went back to school.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I went back.
I don't think you ever told me that.
Okay, well, you just learned something new.
Yeah.
So over my 14-year career with Irving, I was in the background just as something else. I was working part-time to get a business degree. Right. And so I completed it in 2019, and I majored in human resource management. And all the buzz back then was talking about labor shortage. So it's across the board because it has to do with demographic studies. So if you look at the baby boomers, they are one of the biggest generations. They were the most people, hence the name. Right. And so they're all retiring now. And a lot of times there was no succession plan for them, the jobs they were leaving. So as a very quick example, my general practitioner, my GP, my doctor that I've had since I moved here when I was 8 years old is 60 something years old, and he's retiring, and there's no GP to replace him.
Really?
Right. So
No,
he'd been looking
yeah.
for someone to take over his practice, but there's no doctor there. So I'm going to need to find one. That's just one example. So it's like this, there's multi-sectors of labor shortages. And so we were talking about how organizations will need to plan for and recruit and find ways to retain and attract talent is going to become like a major thing for corporations, for skilled labor, for even for business roles. So it's almost like at somewhere along the way, we forgot to like plan for the future and forgot to tell our kids like, okay, here's where, looking ahead 15, 20 years, these are the jobs that are going to be needed. We should start promoting them now. Like it takes 10 years to train, plus to train a doctor, like some of these skilled laborers. Now, like a Red Seal carpenter or something like that, we can get them up and going, but that's, still that's a few years before they're available.
Right.
And who's promoting that? So
Yeah, you don't hear it a whole lot anymore. I feel like in high school, which seems like not too long ago, but it's probably forever now. But like, I went to Simons, and that's a pretty big trade school. They're known for people going to trades, but like even that wasn't promoted a whole lot. I feel like I could have been just a bum too, because I did fail grade 9. So school evidently wasn't really for me. Like, oh man, I hated school, and I always thought I could do something different, but I don't think I could ever work with my hands. And I don't know if a whole other type of people feel that way in my age group, because I don't remember anyone in my friend group wanting to be a laborer. I can think of one, because I think his dad is a laborer, but I don't know. Maybe he does do that, but most of them are teachers. Most of them went into arts. Like, I think one did marketing. Like, I can't think of one that did laboring.
Right. So in your generation.
Oh, that's bad. Now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, that's bad.
Right. So who's going to do the plumbing, the electrical, the crack filling, and put the house together, like the framers framing a house?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like there's a shortage of those. And so there's a bunch of barriers right now to building and to development.
Yeah, it sucks. It's too bad. I guess it's just a reality of it, because I don't, unless I accumulate a lot of money very quickly, I don't see like a future getting a house anytime soon. Let alone like, I feel kind of lame because I live at home, but I feel like that's a lot of people right now. Because, I mean, I live at home, and even then things are expensive. Like having a new car, I'm like, man, honestly, having a new car sucks. It's the worst thing ever. And I kind of hate that I did it, but now I'm stuck with it. I could sell it, but I mean, I'm just like you. I kind of drive all around, and I already put a bunch of mileage into it. Like I'm, traveling home, the work, the boxing, and I'm constantly going. So in my head, I was like, oh, I need like a brand new car. When I think maybe 4-year older car would have done just fine. But that's what I mean. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do about. Oh, does my girlfriend come here, and are we just gonna go rent? Like, she still has to do school. Am I gonna get a house? Well, okay. Interest rates are super high. Am I just gonna have to budget better? And I feel like a lot of people wanna live life too. Like, if you get a car and you get a house, you got your bills. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. I just think that we need to all really level up when it comes to financial literacy. By that I mean, like,
I agree.
And I'm even talking to myself here. Like, in the times that we're in, we just need to be smarter about money management and how are we saving? What are we spending on, and these kinds of things. And I am no expert when it comes to financial planning.
Oh, same. I'm terrible with it. I'll look at a good steak and I'll be like, mine. I'll go cook it.
Right, as opposed to like living on a budget and
Yeah.
setting money aside each month. And
I've sat down, and I'm not saying like I don't normally go paycheck to paycheck,
Mhm.
like almost ever, but I feel like I've tried budgeting, sitting down, be like, okay, this is how much I'm gonna spend every single week or every month.
Mhm.
I hate it. I'm so bad at it. I just
Right?
buy random shit too.
Well, and I mean, it's just so I guess what's more important then, right? And it comes down to
My
that.
random shit, Joel, is more important.
Well, then, yeah, you know what?
Just
That's
joking.
well, then that's going to be your reality then, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
I
no.
guess if you really want a house, how serious are you about that, and what
Mm.
sacrifices are you going to make in
Right.
order to make that happen?
Mhm.
And I painted a picture that made it seem really daunting, but I would encourage you at your age to invest in real estate now, because over time markets shift and come and go, but over time a home appreciates in value. So in a different market, if the market were to balance or stabilize, you would expect the appreciation on a home, like it's how much value it would increase by yearly, to be close to 2 to 3%, which is what the Bank of Canada is trying to do with inflation.
Mhm.
So keep in mind, inflation was at like 8% at one point, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Oh yeah. I mean, that's pretty bad.
Right?
Yeah.
So now it's around 4%. And, they just announced a few days ago that they're keeping interest rates as they are at
Right.
5%.
Okay.
The overnight lending rate is staying the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so that overnight lending rate, which is the Bank of Canada comes up with that, and Tiff Macklem, the governor of the Bank of Canada, he's kind of making these decisions with a team of experts. And they want inflation back down to 2 to 3%. So prior to the pandemic, that was the average inflationary amount for a 15, 20-year period that I was working in commercial real estate, because I watched the CPI index, that's Consumer Price Index, which is based on a basket of goods, what its cost was over time and how much that basket of goods increased in value. And so the average was 2 to 3%. And so these were like very reliable statistics that when I was planning for what was I going to increase my budgets for all these properties that were being managed, it was 2 to 3%. So that is the goal, to get inflation back to 2 to 3%, and that homes start appreciating at 2 or 3% per year, not this, 60, 70, 80% that they've increased over 4 years.
Right.
So that isn't sustainable for that to continue, I don't think, like that over the long term. So my thought would be that over the next several years, it'll start to come down and start to increase at a more steady rate. So all that to say, if you can buy now, 10 years from now, you're going to have an investment that you have equity that is going to appreciate in value. Even if the market dips down, it's going to come back over time.
Right.
All of that comes out in the wash. And so I don't know. I think I've talked to other people your age, and they also thought, no, I don't think this isn't going to be able to happen. But I would encourage people like yourself, or anyone really that's watching or listening to this, if you don't think you can afford, how do you know if you haven't run the numbers, if you haven't talked to a mortgage counselor?
Mm-hmm.
They could look at your salary and whatnot and tell you, this is what you could potentially afford. And then you come to a realtor and you say, okay, this is what I can afford, and we can help direct you toward the properties that are within that affordability range.
Right.
So, having an expert for a mortgage, having a really good financial planner, and a really good realtor are 3 key people that you need all those people working together to get you where you need to be. But right now, you don't know what you don't know, it sounds like.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Right.
Most of the time, I'm just winging it.
Right.
Just kind of going with the flow, which is really bad for someone my age. Like, I feel like I do kind of okay. Like, I'm not living on the street, which is good.
Right.
Like, thank God for that. But I think that's an area in my life that I definitely should get better at. And maybe a lot of people like me as well. Because things are also just expensive.
Yeah.
It's
And
ridiculous.
I mean, I don't mean to pinpoint you. I am in the same scenario where, I make very good money. And there are times where I'm like, how can I can't really account for where it's all going.
Right.
And so when I was saying like financial literacy, like I'm pointing at myself as well. Like I think we collectively need to do better. But it is really about looking at the numbers. The numbers really don't lie. And so having a plan, looking at what your income is, your expenses, what is affordable, like what is a safe tolerance for a mortgage payment? Because like you said, you're either going to be paying rent or you're going to be paying a mortgage. So paying a mortgage is investing in your future. Rent is fine if that is what you're going to do, and you can rent and still save money and put money in investments. But real estate is, you have to make that mortgage payment. It's almost like a forced way to save and build equity.
Yeah. I actually feel really, you brought the renting thing up because I feel really bad for my buddy that I work with. We told him not to do it, but he just signed for a really high rent. I think like $2,400 like a month. I'm like, bro, that's crazy. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of the other issues where he was living before, like mice and rats and stuff like that. So like I get it, but man, how do you how do you even save up for that? It's crazy.
Right. So it's interesting because I think what people don't realize is, again, it comes down to the numbers. Like if you look at what rents currently are,
Yeah.
what you'd be paying in rent versus a mortgage, it'd be interesting to see. Everyone's scenario is slightly different based on their income, et cetera.
Right.
But with rents being the way they are today, a 2-bedroom apartment is easily $1,500 to $2,000 depending. And some of these newer buildings that are going up, we're seeing rents like $2,400 for a 2 or 3 bedroom sort of luxury apartment. I mean, you're getting usually a very nice apartment at that rate. And again, renting isn't wrong. There's no right or wrong here.
Right.
But it is about like planning. And so if you're going to rent, what are you doing to save as well? So if you can save money by renting, let's say, then it would make sense that you'd be putting whatever you're saving by not owning aside. But again, I don't know that in this market with the rents being the way they are, I think you're better off to buy and build equity and whatnot. That's just, I know I'm in the industry, but.
Yeah. Well, I remember, you're probably right. Actually, I think you are right. I just feel like, I guess it depends too. Right now, a house is a lot to maintain too.
That's true.
Is just a lot. But I do remember when I was we lived in 2 different places. We lived on Waterloo, which was interesting. Waterloo was crazy. But I think that was like 1,100. And starting off, we had 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I lived in a box. Yeah, that was did I ever tell you about that?
No.
So we lived at the very bottom hill of Waterloo Street.
Okay, yeah.
There's a Taekwondo dojo.
Yeah.
Like literally up the hill is a big red building.
Yeah.
That was our apartment. We lived at the very top. It was so weird because it was terrible. And I don't think it was maintained very well. We have some crazy stories. But like in the wintertime, it was an old building. In the wintertime, you could hear it rock or feel it rock.
Yeah.
You're like, are we going to die today? It was crazy. But like when we started off with 4 guys, since I had the smallest room and I was like, all right, guys, I'll take the smallest room, but I'll take the lowest rent.
Okay.
And everyone else got a regular room.
Mm-hmm.
And I only paid $200, I think. I'll probably get corrected on that. But it wasn't a lot at all. And I moved out and I was like, this is great. And a big thing for me has always been traveling, right? So I wanted to travel like really, really bad. So that's the only reason why I did that. And thank goodness I did that because I've taken a trip to Los Angeles when I was in that apartment. And that was really awesome, especially to see my brother. Like that was really, really awesome. So I guess you're right. I guess you do have to sacrifice certain things if you want a house, because that was another thing that I probably can't afford a house, is just, going every year across seas.
Right.
Right? Like, that's a lot.
Right.
Right? So, I don't know.
And again, it comes down to priorities for you. Like right
Yeah.
now, travel. Sure, you're young, travel when you have, a lot of people say travel when you're young and you can. So I guess it's a matter of like really figuring out what is important. But I just think, don't put it off too long investing in your future and
trust me,
whatnot.
my mom says that. And
Yeah.
she's like, what are you going to do? You going to live here forever? I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Don't tempt me. Because I will.
Right?
No, having in my own space would probably be good. And, not feel like a loser. Just joking. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I know who I'm going to go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know someone?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, someone who could help me.
Okay.
Yeah. But
who could it be?
I have no idea. What I really wanted to know was, where is he? Oh, there's McGee's. You've made a a big shift on how you market yourself now.
Yes.
I am genuinely really curious about that. We have another guy in here. His name's McGee's. He's helping him, Joel out with his Instagram and marketing, and I want you to talk about that because everything's way different. I'll scroll. Like you seem like something you would find on like the For You page on Instagram, selling me something, and I want to know.
So I'll speak to it the best I can, but
Yeah.
I realized in January, when we first, and thank you, that was your introduction, by the way. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I pushed McGee's to quit.
Yeah.
Love my pioneers.
Yeah.
So I will never forget it. We met at Starbucks and
Like we did.
yeah,
Yeah.
but same with him.
You love Starbucks.
I do love the Starbucks for sure. Some really good conversations have been had at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So I met with McGee's and I don't know, we just vibed, and I was saying kind of what I wanted to do, and he had some really good ideas about how to do that. And it was really about increasing my presence on all platforms. And it was about putting paid ads out there. And and realizing as well, like I'm going to stay in my lane. Like my lane is selling real estate.
Right.
That's my expertise.
Yeah.
I'm not a marketing expert. I am not a social media expert. And now to be good on social media, like it is a skill that you need to have.
Oh yeah.
And so I hired McGee's to do that. And he's done a really great job. And so there's himself and some other folks that are working all together with me to make this happen. So it's just a matter of like making sure there's so many posts and particular types of posts, and it's very formulaic how it all has to go down.
Yeah, like I was looking at it. I went on your Instagram and I was really intrigued by it because you can even tell from when you're scrolling down, it's like organized in a certain way.
Right.
Why is it? What's going on there?
Okay, so what happens is we have a software that all of this queues up into.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it queues up in the software. It's all produced and vetted by Mugiz and myself. Like I get the final, like, okay, let's approve that post. So they're pre-scheduled, pre-done, and days in advance. So we use a software called Social Pilot, and it's the slickest thing because I get a notification on my phone. So I send a bunch of stuff and I give like a general sense, like I want motivational posts. Let's focus on Brene Brown. Let's focus on mental wellness. Let's focus on real estate, like 5 things to help you buy your first home, 5 things you should know. And we just started narrowing down, and we then looked at what posts perform the best, and we started doing more of that. The timing of stuff is important, like when it gets posted, all of that sort of thing. And then we realized, okay, even though I'm having folks help me do this, I still couldn't just like sit there and twiddle my thumbs. I had to be more actively engaged on my social as well, like making comments. And I didn't really want to post like I went to the gym this morning, or I just didn't think like people cared or wanted to know.
Right.
But it turns out they do. So now you're going to see a lot more of me just like popping on with a story, popping on with, I'm really into, as you know, I'm really into motivation and understanding what makes us tick and how I can be the absolute best version of myself.
Right.
So I'm reading a lot of books from Brene Brown. I'm now reading Brianna Weist, who's another great writer that has just, she's writing a book right now, or she wrote a book that's called, and I keep talking, I feel like a broken record about it. It's called 101 Ways, 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think.
I know exactly what book you're talking
It's
about.
the white book with the black lettering.
Yeah. I know someone who, I was there when I bought it. I know exactly what book you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it really is changing the way I think. So,
Yeah.
Each chapter is a new essay and a new thought of the day. So
Right.
I'm even popping on, like I'll read one of those chapters every morning, and it just kind of gets me in the vibe.
That's cool.
Of like, okay, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And it gets me in the vibe and the mode. But it's also about me taking that time. I'm trailing off here, but me
That's
taking
okay.
that time in the morning for self-care.
Yeah.
And because I do what I do, oftentimes I'm working like through the afternoon into the evenings a lot. So I needed to find a time of day that worked for me to make sure I'm filling myself up. I'm giving myself what I need so that I can be the best I can be for my clients, for my family. And so I'm taking some of that and we're incorporating that because I wanted my social media to represent sort of not only just me, Joel, the realtor, but me, the human being that likes going to the gym, that plays the piano, that likes to read, that's super into motivational books, that's curious about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so, I love design. So it's like, check out my new chair that I just bought, or, I like clothing. So posting, oh, check out my fit today, my favorite hoodie, like this is my favorite white pants. And
We always looking great. So
so just posting about that stuff.
yeah.
Like, here's a cool meal that I just made.
Yeah.
So, again, I wasn't really doing that before. I didn't think I needed to, or I didn't think that it was important. I guess I wasn't in the frame of mind of like sharing that, but it's become this whole thing now. And, I started my social media journey on my own with Monday Morning Coffee with Joel.
Yep. I remember.
Remember that?
Are you still doing that?
I am.
Yeah. I thought so. You guys recorded one today, right?
We just
Yeah.
recorded one this morning.
Yeah.
So it was about neighborhood statistics. So
Yeah.
like this is the average price per popular neighborhood.
Right.
And last week I went over last month's stats. Like this is, the reason I know the average price is 314,000 is because I do a video on that. Whenever the new stats come out each month, I'm reviewing them, putting together a video, but it also helps me like remember it. It also helps me know it. So it started with me sitting on my living room couch with my iPhone and a ring light.
I remember that, yeah.
And I would go to Facebook and it'd be like live, and I'd be like, "Good morning, beautiful people. It's Joel McElhaney coming to you live. This is a Monday Morning Coffees with Joel." And I'd like have my mug, and because I also love coffee.
Yeah.
So it just made sense, and people started engaging with that, and that was working. So I continued to do that. But since hiring McGee's, even that is. Those weren't edited. It was just like a live.
Yeah.
If I made a mistake or whatever, I just kept going, and now just the level of the production of what that is even better now. And I had a hard time letting go of doing it live and doing it. I had done it the way I had been doing it.
Yeah.
So McGee says, push me out of my comfort zone, but I encourage everyone, push yourself out of your comfort zone.
That's with everything, yeah.
Right?
Oh, 100%. You almost have to, or you're just not going to learn. You're not going to grow.
You're going to stagnate.
Yeah, 100%. Because I can think of a couple businesses that I know of, and I want them to do well. And this is mainly why I'm asking, because I'm going to have to do that. I hate that I'm going to have to do that, but I'm going to have to do it. But you need to know this stuff, or else you're not going to grow. You're not going to engage people. Because you're really, in my opinion, you're selling yourself. to an extent, right?
Yeah.
You're marketing yourself.
Yeah.
And one way to get, sorry, cut out again. But I kind of forget where I was.
You're talking about businesses.
Oh yeah, like if you want to grow, you have to get on the social media game, which is a lot of what our culture is, and it seems one very tiring, but you need to be able to network and know people. Like you don't have to do it all.
Right.
100. Like you just don't need to do it that way. Which is thank God I hired Mugiz and I met him because he. Not that I've really tried a lot of the things he's told me, but he gives a lot of good advice and it's really awesome. And you can build that. Like you can just get people to do things and help you with different things. And I know it sounds stupid, but I don't know. I was just interested in that.
Well, I think it's about, I've said it before, even in this podcast, staying in your lane. And if there's something that your business needs and you don't have the expertise, get it. Go in, get it, hire it. And so this was the area I felt the most struggle in. And I liked the idea of doing it, but I don't really have a ton of interest really. And I didn't really know how. So, and then it's just an added bonus that we get along so well and we just vibe so well. And I think we feed off of each other. Like I will say something and then I was saying to him earlier, I was like, I can tell when he's like in his creative thinking mode and he's like, okay, just give me a second. And then he'll come up with this really cool, okay, Joel, what if you stood here and like today we did this cool video where I was like walking down the street and he had this really cool idea that I was pretending like I was on my phone and then I see this house, it's my new listing. And I'm like, and we go in the house. It was really cool. You'll have to see when that comes out. But I would have never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it is so important to have people like if you want to succeed in literally anything, it is so important you have people that are like-minded like you, so you can learn and grow. Because some people just, like I said, a lot of people just want to do it themselves, and most of the time you'll just crash and burn. Because it is a lot. Marketing, social media, getting to clients for you, like it is a lot.
Yeah. It's true.
Managing your time, scheduling, like it's ridiculous. I was telling my buddy Enrique, I was like, man, like I'm like trying to figure out guests to talk to. I'm like trying to figure out dates, get all my hardware set up, edit.
Yeah.
Think about timing.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just me.
Yeah.
Right?
I know, because when I licensed in 2021, February 1st, I did everything.
Yeah. I remember.
I took, because I was buying the equipment. I bought a drone from you. I bought stuff like a gimbal. So I was marketing. I was everything. I was my marketer. I was my HR. I was my admin. I was everything. I was taking the photos, editing them. And that was great. I don't regret that. But when I first started, I wasn't busy. I wasn't that busy. Yeah. But let's say I'm really good at all that. I'm not necessarily, but let's say I'm okay.
Yeah.
But even if I loved it and was like as good as Mugiz, let's say, realistically now, I don't have the time. Yeah. Right? So it was really about freeing up more time to be doing the things that are going to drive my business forward. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to outsource and trust someone else with stuff, if you want to grow. Now, I could have just continued to do what I did that first year and basically. But already, like, it's funny, Mugiz was asking me this morning, he's like, so how's the business? I'm like, really good. Yeah. To the point where I'm now stressed on the side of like, how am I going to do all this?
You need an assistant now.
Possibly.
Maybe. And that's important because, I mean, I would assume you'd be making more money. But the more money you make, and I totally 100% believe this, the more money you got to put in back into the business.
Yes.
And that's really important. I feel that's a lot of what people miss out on because they see all this money. They're like, oh, maybe I'll just keep it to myself. Or I don't know if that's what they think, or maybe they're just too afraid to outsource. But if you dump because people are a resource, I think, personally. And if you use your money towards someone that's better at an area than you are, it'll go a long way.
Yeah.
Could even double your income.
You could. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit scary when I first hired him because I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, can I justify this? Can the numbers justify it? And now I'm like, can you, like, I have so much that I have for him to do now. And
I'm sure he loves it.
Yeah. I think it's just really worked out well for both of us.
Yeah.
I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of scenario. And yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have for
Okay.
today. But thank you for coming on.
Thanks
And
for
where
having
can
me.
people reach you if anyone wants to buy a house or sell their home?
Well, you can text Go with Joel to 85377 to download my mobile business card.
Oh, cool. I actually
Or
didn't know that.
You can go to gowithjoel.com. That's my website.
Nice.
Or you can call me 506-647-9613. My phone's always on. If I don't answer, I'm just with a client or sleeping.
Or using the bathroom. All right, thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.